Hey folks, Eric again from Another Voice with Jason and Eric. Heard Mondays 1 to 2 p.m. on Spin FM 103.3 in Greenville, Greer, and Spartanburg, or you can find the podcast on canIGetAWordIn.com, or go to iTunes and subscribe to our podcast channel, Another Voice with Jason and Eric. And while you're out there on the web, take a minute to go to pdoutfitter.com. They're your source for the self-defense firearms, emergency preparedness gear, survival gear, and classes for responsible gun ownership like concealed weapon training and combat-focused shooting. That's pdoutfitter.com. Now, in our last video cast, I said I was going to talk about the 5 points that Governor Romney made in his speech about what he's going to do to create 12 million jobs right away if he's elected president. But I'm going to hold off on that. I think we'll do that on the show this coming Monday, September 10th, because we'll be talking about both of the conventions. The Democrats are off and running. Full day yesterday. We got a full day today. And I want to talk about one of the speeches yesterday. That would be the keynote address from San Antonio Mayor Julian Castro. And because we've had both conventions, both keynote speakers speak, you can compare and contrast between those two. We're going to do that a little bit today. It was interesting that there actually was a clear difference between the two speeches. I felt that Governor Christie's was harsher, and it was more divisive. He talked about, this is the way we think, this is our philosophy, this is their philosophy, which of course was bad. And while Mayor Castro had a few zings and negatives toward Romney and the Republicans, some of them factual, some of them not so much, I felt that the tone of the speech was better. I thought it was, we Americans do great, we have opportunities, we want to continue those opportunities, we want to invest in the future. It felt like a forward-moving speech, more so than Governor Christie's speech. They both obviously talked about how their life experiences are examples of the position that they're pushing. But I actually think that Mayor Castro's story fit better with his long-term goal in the speech. I think Mayor Castro's speech was more inspiring, specific for the people in the audience, which of course is a partisan speech, and a partisan party is going to do well. But I think it might have actually reached out to independents, if they were listening, as a thought-provoking speech, because there was this concept that we have done well, we are doing well, we can do well. There are problems, we can overcome them, we've always overcome them. But it wasn't as negative and as down. The view of America today from Mayor Castro wasn't as downer as Governor Christie's was. I like some aspects of Mayor Castro's speech. He was talking a lot about the American dream isn't a sprint or a marathon, it's a relay where the successes of one generation are passed on to the next generation to move along. And I think that's what America has been, how we've built this country from where it was originally to where we are now. There have been up and down, but there's this theme that we always push through. Now, I know a theme in the Republican convention was, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And this is the generation that the first generation where they're not better than their parents were before them. I don't know how accurate that is in specifics, but the attitude in Mayor Castro's speech is, we can make this work. Now, it was a partisan speech, so there were some partisan attacks, and a couple of them were not quite accurate. In praising President Obama's, let me go back before I do the specifics. I want to talk about one other thing. In Governor Romney's speech for the acceptance, I made a point that it seemed in his speech that at some point in the last 4 years, or maybe a little bit before, somebody beamed all the Republicans away from the country, and all the problems were solely the fault of President Obama and the Democrats, and the Republicans had nothing to do with it. I feel that in that speech, that's what Governor Romney did. He blamed everything on Obama and everything on the Democrats. In Mayor Castro's speech, it was the reverse. It was like everything was solved by President Obama, and that there were no Democrats involved in the problems that led up to our economic mess, or any solutions that failed after the president became president. So there was that, hey, we did all great, them guys are bad. They didn't specifically say that, but it was there. So as far as specifics, in praising the president, Mayor Castro talked about that under the Obama administration, we have created 45 million new jobs. Now, that's cool and that's good. It's not quite accurate. Since now they picked that starting in February of 2010 because that's the lowest point for private sector jobs. We actually, if you go back to January 2009, we've only created 332,000 jobs since then, net jobs. Now, honestly, if you go back to 2009, you can't. You can look at the first couple months when none of the president's policies were in place yet, and the job losses that we had, they were huge. So one of the reasons they go back to February 2010 is that was the worst, the low point, and we've gone up from there. But in addition to the fact that we haven't actually created 4.5 million new jobs, the private sector has done better. In the private sector, we actually have created 4,544,000 new jobs, but that's not net. It's created since February 2010. So it's a positive. It's just not as good a positive. The problem is you have to factor in the government sector jobs, which if we factor all that in, we're actually at a deficit of 316,000 jobs. Now, I want to hasten to say our friends on the right are always saying government jobs are bad, get rid of government jobs, get the governments out. So in one sense, Obama's doing what they want, getting rid of government jobs. I'm not sure that's the best way to do it. So this 4.5 million new jobs, it is a factual claim, not in context. Since February 2010, private sector jobs have been on the rise. But we had a huge drop before he was elected, and then the first 3-4 months when he was elected, they went downhill. Now, the Republicans hollered about, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And in this case, we are, but it went down before it went up. He also talked about Governor Romney's, when it comes to the middle class back to work, Governor Romney says no. Well, that's not true. Governor Romney talks all about getting the middle class back to work. The difference is, the Democrats have a view of how to do that. The Republicans have a view of how to do that, and they're different. And for most Democrats, the plans that Governor Romney have to help the middle class won't work. Partly I agree, partly I don't agree. But it's not that Mitt Romney doesn't want to put middle class back to work and help. He said when it comes to respecting the women's rights, Romney says no. Now, again, I said the other day, there's not a war on women. If someone believes that abortion is wrong, if someone believes that a fetus is a life and that it is not right to take that life, they're not talking about restricting the right of a woman. They're saying that there's something in addition to the right of the woman. And this is where that whole abortion debate gets bogged down. It comes down to one fundamental fact. Is a fetus a human life? If a fetus is not a human life at any point in the stage, I don't care where you say it becomes life, but before it becomes a life, if it's not a life, then it's a woman's right to do with this growth in her body what she wants. But if the fetus at some point is a life, then it is the government's job to protect life as one of the fundamental rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is where this abortion debate comes down. And it's cool from the left to say he's attacking women when, in essence, anybody who opposes abortion on that ground is not attacking women. They're trying to protect life. And you can fight back and forth. So it's not actually true to say that Romney's trying to fight the respecting women's rights. I said when it comes to gay marriage, Mitt Romney says, no, that's true. That's his position. Big surprise. When it comes to expanding access to good health care, Mitt Romney says no. Not exactly. Even though he talks about getting rid of Obamacare, repeal and replace, Remember, this is the guy that Obamacare was based on, his plan in Massachusetts. And when asked recently about specifics about what he would or wouldn't do if he could take care of Obamacare, when they asked him specifics, he basically wants to keep almost everything but the individual mandate. So if you cut down to what he's done, I don't think you can say he doesn't want to expand health care. He doesn't. You could say he doesn't want to expand health care in this manner. That's just a couple of the things that there have been some partisanship in Mayor Castro's speech. Overall, I thought it was a good speech. I thought it really was inspiring. I thought it was positive for the most part. Which the other thing is, unlike Governor Christie's speech and all the speeches that day from all the governors, this one was about getting President Obama reelected. It didn't sound at all like he was trying to push himself up to be the next presidential candidate. But overall, it was a good partisan speech. Some factual problems, just like in all these speeches, or some slant or lean. But overall, it was a good speech. Speech is going on today. Of course, we've got former President Clinton speaking and some other ones. And we'll look at some of those. We'll probably try to do someone from South Carolina. Representative Clyburn spoke, and I want to get on what he said. So stay tuned. Look for some more of these podcasts about what's going on in the Democratic Convention. Of course, this coming Monday, we'll be talking about both conventions. Until then, have a great week.